On this episode, we're going to be covering fading out food during training, dogs fighting amongst one another in the household, how to avoid and get rid of stalker-like behavior with a dog seeing another dog upon approach, and much, much more on episode 38 of Dog Behavior Question Tuesday. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Blake Rodriguez with Dream Come True K9, and this is episode 38 of Dog Behavior Question Tuesday. It has been a while, so we apologize. We were on a little hiatus, but we have a lot of good things on the way for you. Let's go ahead and start by introducing the crew, and then we're going to jump right into these questions. So we have Rasta and Lola over here. We have Blackface Lola. That's how we differentiate between the two. Julieta, Vicente, we have Samson, Doc. Directly behind me over here, we have Soko, we have Ramona, Maxwell, Millie, Winston, and Jake. So nice little crew here hanging out with us, and let's kind of jump right into this. So first question is from Basil. Hi Blake, this is a two-part question. When using food as a reward, and you want to eventually fade away the rewards, when do you know when that's time to start skipping rewards? And when do you skip rewards? Or when you skip rewards, do you yes the dog without reinforcing, or do you always reinforce after a yes? Okay, so a couple things. When you're working a dog with food, the number one thing that you're trying to accomplish is a dog is aware of why food is getting dispensed. Right? So eventually what you're doing is you're creating this pattern of almost like a conditioned response, right? A dog does something, knows how to get it, they know they get food, knows how to get it, knows to get food. When you start to feed on a fixed kind of rate of a schedule, a fixed schedule, a random schedule, what starts to happen is you can do this slowly. So if, let's say, every 5 sending dogs to place, on like the 5th one, you decide to gamble. What you're doing is you're going through the sequence of first you have a dog that is excitingly kind of doing it, right? Like whether you're using it for remote, whether you're using lure, whether you're using leash and lure, whatever it is, you have a dog that is doing it seamlessly. You don't want to fade out the food when the dog is just getting it. Even if the dog is just getting in the first session, you should be really, really building this to the point where it's habitual. So once we get to that point, you are working with a dog who on like the 5th repetition, you decide to fade something out, right? So you decide to do it, and then you maybe yes the dog, and in this case, usually what we're doing when we're jumping into that is before we fade out the food, we're actually fading out one of the tools. So if we're using the remote collar, we're still using food around the time that we are, and that's actually a great question because you don't want to fade food before fading out certain tools. At least I don't like to do that. So you should get to a point where if you're pressing the remotes prior from communication, what you're doing is the button is going on, the dog is going over there after you send place, and then you're yesing. And what's happening is you're getting into this rhythm. The next step is you don't press the button, the dog goes, and then you have the button if you need to, if the dog is stationary. You're getting to a point that the dog is doing it. To answer your question about the yes, what you're basically doing is you're starting to fade out for the goods, for duration, and every now and then a yes might be praised. The answer to your second part of the question is there's always a reward. The reward is your job is complete. The reward is you might get a toy. The reward is you might get praise. But you're working, you basically get to clock out, so there always is a reward. But when you're fading out food, you want to do it kind of here and there. You might basically have your dog place and then good them, and then maybe give them a little pet, or jump right into a recall, and then when they're done with their recall, feed them, and then go ahead and place them, maybe feed them, recall them, don't feed them, place them, go into another thing. That way you're starting to fade this out here and there. Prior to jumping into that, you have to know that you have a dog that's doing these things without the tools. You don't want to fade food and then get a dog to do it just with a tool, if that makes sense. Is there anything you want to add to that? Nope, sounds good. Okay, so hopefully that helps you. We're going to jump right into Tara. Hi, Blake. How do we teach our 1-year-old dog to relax around visitors at our home? She barks nonstop and gets worked up around anyone who comes over, including delivery folks. Even if she calms down after some time, she starts barking and getting agitated if someone leaves or stands. Any advice? We've tried treats, keeping on the leash, and loud reprimands, but it doesn't seem to do the trick. Thanks for your help. First thing I'm going to do is definitely advise that you go through all the Dog Behavior Question Tuesday episodes so you can get an understanding, because we answered this question a number of times in different ways. We're going to answer it again, but some answers are going to be, there's no set answers, so some answers might resonate more than what you get here, right? You have to be familiar with the marker system. If you're going to reprimand a dog, or let's say you're using the word no, we actually use the marker nope, N-O-P-E, and one of the reasons for that is it's really difficult for an individual to be upset and say nope in a mean way that sounds mean. So what that does is it forces you to teach what nope means. A lot of people, hey Ozzy, could you close that door for me? A lot of people rely on saying no and then not following through and teaching what no means. So you have a dog that no sounds scary and they go, okay, I know this guy's upset with me, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So you have to spend more time teaching the dog what to do rather than teaching the dog what not to do. You should be practicing the place commands. While you're practicing the place command, or prior to that, your dog should be good on leash pressure from a communication standpoint. You should have a dog that works for food, that knows how to be lured, that knows how to follow, knows how to go there to get something, right? Understands that their choices matter. All these things are really important. If you don't have that stuff, that's the wax on, wax off stuff that you're working on in order to address the big test. The problem that you have is you're only trying to work on it when the big test comes, when the delivery guy comes, when your friends come over. That's the only time you try to work on it. So it's not gonna work because your dog is gonna fail the test. They're not studying. So you need to practice this in everyday situations with just general impulse control. Having dogs hold place while you're watching Netflix. When you get up and go to the bathroom, don't let your dog follow you in. Have your dog hold that position. If your dog knows leash pressure, you can use the leash to follow through. You can use the leash to correct. You can use the leash to guide, right? There's meaning to that. You can have spatial pressure. All this stuff is really important. Right now, you probably don't have that language, but you're trying to address the problem. So you have to work on developing that language. We have tons of videos, live periscopes, Dog Behavior Question Tuesday, YouTube stuff, Facebook Live, everything for you to learn how to do this stuff so that you can teach, place, and work a dog for food to teach the behavior. So when the time comes that you ask for it, the dog goes, oh, that's the stuff we always practice. Yeah, I know how to do that. And then you're basically just teaching them, hey, you know that stuff that you practiced, that you got really good at? That applies even when the doorman comes, or the delivery guy comes. That applies when the doorbell rings. That applies when this, and so on and so forth. You don't want to use treats as bribery, but you can use food in a way where they understand that they have to do something in order to get it. They're not getting food for no reason. So you have to change the way you work with your dog, you engage with your dog, and change the way your dog thinks, okay? Jump into the next question. Kathy. Geez, Kathy, this is a novel. Hi, Blake, thanks for all your help. I have 2 Rotties. One is a recent rescue who is afraid, or is very afraid of everything. I also have an old pug that just sleeps. The Rottie gets along well, but the rescue is now attacking my pug. Last week, she attacked her 3 times while trying to break her off the pug. She shook her by her mouth, back and forth like a rag doll. Pug is okay except for some stitches, but now I have to separate them to the point that the Rottie can't even see the pug or he wants to kill. So the Rottie's not okay. I'm confused though. Hold on one second. Oh, you have 2 Rotties. Okay. The Rotties get along. Okay, I understand. My dogs are e-collar trained. No, they're not. I don't know if it's because the Rottie and pugs are females, has nothing to do with it, or if the dog, I'm telling you for those that are reading the question, or if the dog, where are we? Or if the Rottie is taking out her fear and frustration on the pug. Where can I start with this? Also, because she has attacked my pug, should I not let her around grandchildren near her too? Will she bite humans now that she has attacked my dog? She is fearful of everything, but hasn't showed aggression towards the kids, but I'm very afraid now. Thank you for your help. Any advice you can give? Okay, a couple things. You should definitely try to consult a professional because I'm going to give you this advice, but at the same time, you don't. This is a serious matter, so you don't want to be trying this on your own without the help of a professional, right? So, jumping into things, if your pug truly is doing nothing and isn't pestering and isn't wandering, you have to start working with your Rotties or Rottie. You have to have a dog that, this is the big thing, and I always tell people this, there's a huge difference between a dog that is a good dog that happens to make the right choices on their own versus the dog that happens to make the right choice and then wants to choose something else, but doesn't because you said so. That's really important. So that's the difference between dog tricks and dog obedience. And I did a live Periscope that explains this a little more in detail, but very important. It's one thing for you to say something and have a dog prefer to do it, right? It's another thing for you to say something and have a dog do it because it would rather do something else. That's important. And if you want real world obedience, it has to go beyond a dog preferring to make the choice. There will always be a time where a dog knows how to make that choice. That choice is normally preferable, but right now I'd rather kind of do that. So that's super important that you really understand that. You need to go back to basics. You must work a dog for food. You must teach a dog place. You must cover the markers, good, yes, and nope. You have to teach a dog that their choices matter, and a dog must get a whammy of a correction with good timing for that behavior, because that is not okay by any circumstances, and odds are the dog did it and got away with it where the reward outweigh the consequence. Your dogs, if they're ignoring you in that situation, you have to become relevant to the point where you have middle name relevance. And I've said this on other episodes. Middle name relevance is I'm up to bat playing baseball in the backyard. My mother's calling me, Blake Daniel. The moment I hear Blake Daniel, everything else stops. The play is dead. The referee, who's my mom, blew the whistle. You get the bat, I go to my mom, right? You need to get your dog's remote collar trained. You need to put yourself in a position where you're using tools that are helping to not fix the problem, but are helping to empower and make you relevant so a dog understands, one, I have to listen to you. Two, listening to you benefits me. And three, you're the one that gives me direction and is my best friend and tells me what I need to hear, whether I want to hear it or not. You need a dog that understands this. Start with leash pressure. Start with working a dog for food, getting a dog to follow you. That way, eventually, when leash pressure is solid, you remote collar train your dog away from problems, and the communication is really well. The dog understands all the languages of leash, of food, of lure, of body, commands, remote collar. When you have that stuff in place, you can now use those tools to raise your voice and yell, because before you give direction for challenging situations, before you raise your voice and yell, you must make sure the dog knows that language. The problem is right now the dog, hey, you too, I'm watching you. The problem is right now the dog doesn't know those languages and you're not in a position to help, right? So keeping them separate is not helping, but it's also it's also preventing them from being hurt. But at the same time, you shouldn't work them around one another, definitely by yourself, and you shouldn't do it until you're relevant enough with your dog where what you say matters no matter what, right? Dog tricks is go make yourself a bowl of ice cream before you hang out with your friends, or if you want to hang out with your friends. Dog's not going to disagree with that. Okay, cool, no problem. Makes the bowl of ice cream and goes hangs out with his friends. Dog obedience is you want to hang out with your friends, go clean the garage and do the dishes first. I don't know many kids that want to do that, but your dog should do that, discipline, and then can go. Your dog has to learn to take direction from you no matter what. That's very, very important, right? Let's see where we are here. Sorry, I'm just loading up. And then your question was, where is this? I answered it here, Tuesday night show. This is on YouTube. So this is getting shared on Facebook and you're watching it on Facebook, or you're seeing a clip on Instagram. know that this is on our YouTube channel. All of our social media accounts are Dream Come True K9. Dream Come True, letter K, number 9, right? The website is DctK9.com, just the initials. So, Milo, hey Blake, I am e-collar training my border collie, and whenever I am walking him and we are head on toward a dog, he will focus in on the dog and will go low like he is stalking a sheep. When we get to the dog, he'll go back into dog mode when his head and tail is up, tail is wagging, ears are back, and we'll have a quick sniff before moving on. How do I prevent this from happening and getting his focus on me and getting him to ignore the other dog? Thanks so much, your videos have really helped me. Okay, this is a great question. I'm not sure where you are or where you're from, but if you're e-collar training your dog and you're doing it the way that we teach it, your dog is solid with leash pressure first. There's ways to do it with e-collar by itself, but if you have a dog, usually what's happening is your dog is on leash, and what your dog has learned, dogs are creatures of pattern, is that when you're trying to walk this way or you're trying to walk this way and a dog is over here and they see it and you want to walk, they can get you to stop by pressure releasing you. Applying pressure, getting low center of gravity so you can't pull. A lot of times you negotiate or you shut the leash pressure off and the dog goes, yes, it worked again. They can stay there, and every single time they do that tactic, it works to get them to meet, right? So the behavior might not be bad, that your dog is meeting dogs, but your dog is flat out flipping you off and saying, yeah, I listen to you, but right now I'm in the middle of something, you're gonna wait. And then is doing this. That has to change. So by the time that you're doing a tap and turn or you're doing a recall, you should be able to recall or tap and turn your dog off. If you're not at that point, leash pressure comes first. You need to steer the head. We have videos on YouTube that cover leash pressure and how we teach this. We're also going to be working on a whole detailed catalog of videos and stuff, both private and also that eventually will be out so you guys can see how we break everything down from food to leash pressure to remote to all that good stuff that's on the way in the works. But you need to have a dog when they feel leash pressure. You use leash pressure in a way where the first thing that follows leash pressure is the nose. Leash pressure should not be going back. If you want the dog to go this way, leash pressure should not go along the spine. Leash pressure should come this way, maybe come off and come this way again. One thing that's really important, Andrew, I need you in the shot really quickly. One thing that's really, really, really important I need you in the shot. Andrew is the handler, I'm the dog. Actually, so it should probably be this way, right? So let's assume this is attached to my neck, right? Andrew wants to go, let's say you want to go that way, or you want to go this way, and all of a sudden, I see a dog over here. What's going to happen is he's going to use pressure to guide me to go this way, and what should happen as you use the pressure is I should do this, and right there he releases. But what your dog is doing, because it's a pattern and your dog knows it works, is when he applies pressure, I guarantee you apply the pressure, your dog is doing this and is putting their butt toward the pressure, and odds are when they do this and they stalk, you shut pressure off, right? And then that works. You need to make sure that in this gap, could you come a little closer? Come right this way. If I'm the dog and I'm walking and my hips, the dog's butt, I hope I'm not hitting this mic here, my hips and the dog's butt can't pass your hips here. I'm sorry, but if I do that, your timing is off and you're missing it. You need to get to the point that if I see the dog and I'm starting to do this, do what you gotta do as if I was a dog, and I'm trying to do this, you make this sort of happen and then you move. It's a timing issue. It takes time, it takes practice. You need to set this up where you have space, but you cannot have a dog go against your leash pressure. I know that's a little bit sloppy and it's hard to kind of give you an exact example, but that's the problem that people have. So what you should be practicing is, if whenever possible, the distraction should be on the opposite side, and you shouldn't be in between the dog and the distraction, because that's a little bit tougher. We can get into that, but start with the follow me pressure. Basically, if your dog is on your left, the distraction is on your left, you're making a right turn, your dog is on your left. If your dog is on your right, the distraction should be on the right. You should be making left turns, okay? Practice your leash pressure, and once the leash pressure is good away from distractions, you apply it to that. Then you can pair, and also away from distractions, pair recall, where you're doing sort of tap and turns or round kind of U-turns where you're kind of tapping and you're getting this response and pressure is coming off. When you get this response, pressure must come off. You can't get this response and stay there because there's no benefit. Making that choice doesn't benefit the dog. So the dog eventually goes, yeah, that didn't work, I tried that, and then ignores you. So we have to be better with our timing and clearer with our communication. It's a guarantee, I promise you that's what it is. And then the last question is going to be from EK. Hi, Blake. Question about my 1-year-old Chiweenie. That just makes me laugh. I have trained her on the prong and e-collar, and I'm very happy with her behavior, other than when we are walking and are approaching another person or dog. She lunges and barks like crazy. I have tried keeping her attention as we are approaching them by turning in several different directions and zapping her to come back to me when on e-collar and trying not to pull on leash, but that seems to make her bark more. Not sure if my timing is off. It's definitely off on the e-collar, or what else I can be doing. I have worked on her managing her barking, lunging in our home and the facility when we train, so I know it's possible, just have a harder time when out on the walks. Any tips are appreciated. Thank you, Emily. Well, let's see a couple things really quickly. So what's really important is that on an early in the game with the foundations up that you're teaching, a dog understands that when you are applying pressure, whether it's holding pressure low, getting it to turn, pressure shutting off, whether it's a couple of like little taps, rhythmic taps that are consistent, pressure shutting off when the dog makes the right choice. Pressure is shutting off for the dog making the right choice and not for any other reason. If you're using remote and the dog doesn't know remote that well, and the dog is looking over here and you're going higher and the dog is doing this and doesn't know how to turn, don't go high. You need to go back to low and show, slow and show, and teach a dog what to do prior to the distraction. So that way when you go higher and you raise your voice, the dog goes faster into the behavior. If the dog is not going faster into the behavior, you need to add more information to show the dog what to do to turn the remote collar sensation off. Usually that's a mixture of body language and leash pressure and really good timing. The remote is probably being used at the wrong time and is probably being used more for correction-based stuff than teaching the dog what to do. And it might be used for a mixture of both at times, but what's happening is if it's used for the wrong thing, what I see frequently, not even with dog owners, but also dog trainers, is that they use it for corrections, and the corrections only come when the stress comes of the dog, of the person. So what starts to happen is they only feel this when that person comes around or when that dog is coming, and they've learned, holy shit, now I gotta make you go away. So it's, I'm feeling this, and it's getting more intense, and it's getting me more stressed because I don't know why this is happening. I don't know what to do to shut this off, and this always seems to be happening when you're coming around. What's worked for me is I lunge, I go crazy, my owner pulls me away, or you go away, and then that pressure stops. We need to get the dog to a point where they understand why pressure is coming on, what they have to do to shut it off, and that starts before the distraction, and also when you start to include distraction at a greater proximity, right? I hope that answers things. Definitely check us out on Periscope and what we're doing. We've done a lot of stuff with Soundbox. We've also, there's a lot of information that we have out there. What we're going to try to do in the next couple episodes, we're going to do a couple things outside so you guys can see a little bit hands-on. It's kind of close quarters, and we always do this with these guys here. So hopefully that helps. Guys, thank you so much for helping us get back into the groove of things. Episode 38. For those of you that are wondering how to ask your questions, there is every week around Friday to Sunday, ask your dog behavior question here. Post that's on our Instagram page. If you ask in the comments there, we answer on Tuesday for Dog Behavior Question Tuesday, which is on our YouTube channel. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you next week for episode 39.